obviously there's no secret the Jets have the number one pick as of now. And with that number one pick, they'd probably take Trevor Lawrence. It's hard not to pass on that guy. What is Sam Darnold's attitude kind of like? I know that we saw Mark Sanchez make comments about it. We've seen, him even say, "Hey, I'm not dumb to the situation. I have social media. I see what people are saying." So what do you think his attitude is kind of for the rest of the season?
Well, I think he's got to go out there and prove himself and make a case that if the Jets do land the number one pick, if they go winless or one or two, and they're in that conversation for Trevor Lawrence or Justin Fields, that they want to instead use that pick on the big offensive tackle out of Oregon, Penny Sewell, or one of the other names, or potentially trade back. I mean, there's a lot of reasons, Tucker, to think that the Jets can build around Sam Darnold. Last year, we all know the mono jokes and everything else. He went through the it can't be the Jets unless you have something ridiculous every year. We're still waiting for that ridiculous thing to pop up this year. So there's hope for an 0-7 Jets to do something still really kind of ridiculous. But after the mono incident and kind of the second half of the year, he really turned things around. 13 touchdowns, 4 interceptions. The Jets went 6-2 to close out the year 7-9. And there was a sense that he was trending in the right direction. And with a good offensive line and some playmakers, there's a sense that maybe Sam Darnold can become that good, solid NFL quarterback that the Jets haven't had since Chad Pennington 15 years ago. Right now, he doesn't have a good offensive line. Right now, he doesn't have a whole lot in terms of playmakers. I mean, Le'Veon Bell's leaving was one of the biggest playmakers, and they weren't even utilizing him the right way. So do you believe that Sam Darnold has the skill set that led the Jets 6-2 last year? And albeit it was against a weakened part of the schedule, but 6-2 last year, and can be a good, solid quarterback. And if you trade back from that number one pick, with, let's say, a Jacksonville, and you get their 2 first-round picks, and you get their day 2 picks, and you get some picks moving forward, that you can accelerate this rebuild. The Jets are going into next offseason with the largest salary cap space currently in the NFL. They land a couple offensive linemen and a wide receiver or two. Can Sam Darnold be a functioning quarterback? Right now, with that offensive line, there's no functioning going on.
Yeah, that's another thing I wanted to ask you. Do you think Sam Darnold's had a fair shake in New York?
Oh, no, not at all. And I think you can probably make the argument that Adam Gase hasn't had a fair shake in New York either. When you look at the numbers of injuries, I mean, last year the Jets led the league in games lost due to injury. I mean, it wasn't even close. They set an all-time record since the stat had been kept by Football Outsiders. It's hard to have a functioning team, and yet he still finished 7-9. Now, a lot of that was Jamal Adams and the versatility he brought to the defense, and losing him and kind of the way that played out maybe is the drama for the Jets in 2020. I don't know, but at the end of the day, it's hard to say that Sam Darnold, when you're throwing to Brashad Perryman as your number 2 wide receiver, and you were without your rookie Denzel Mims for the first 5 weeks. He was a second-round pick out of Baylor, a great player in the Big 12. How you can actually go out there with some of the names that they had, Chris Hogan as their number 1 target in week 2 and week 3, is not a recipe for success. Also, given the state of the offensive line and kind of what they've gone through, and even injuries to their big move on the offensive line. They brought in 4 new starters on the offensive line this offseason, 3 in free agency, 1 with Mekhi Becton, their first-round pick. Becton's missed the last couple games, their left tackle, and he's played very well in the games he's been in and been healthy. Very difficult there to kind of look and assess Sam Darnold and say that this guy's gotten a fair shake through his 3 years in New York. So, but if you believe he's got the arm strength and the intelligence to do it, trade back and build around Sam Darnold. I think an argument can be made for it.
So another thing I want to talk about is the trade deadline's nearing November 3rd. Do you think that there are any moves that the Jets make to kind of build their draft capital for this next year to possibly, build around Sam Darnold?
Yeah, I think we've already seen probably a couple of the moves come into place. They made a move this past week. Jordan Willis, one of their linebackers, was sent to the 49ers along with a 7th-round pick to get a 6th-round pick. They traded Steve McClendon, their interior defensive lineman, who I imagine Kansas City probably made a couple phone calls on him. He's a good, solid player, kind of doing the same thing, trading McClendon and a pick to get a higher pick. It's going to be a 6th-round pick. So, I mean, those were some of the moves we already see, kind of the seller's mentality for the Jets. I'm not sure that, I don't think Darnold would be someone they would move unless they could get a first in return for him. Maybe the Dallas Cowboys would view that as a good investment given their quarterback situation, but I don't think that that's a really ideal scenario. The one player I'm intrigued to see, Tucker, who they end up moving is Jamison Crowder. He's had some injuries this year, but when he's played, he's produced triple-digit receiving yardage in each and every game. And given the status of the Jets' offense right now, that's an accomplishment. Let me tell you, so he's probably one of the top 2 or 3 slot receivers in the NFL. When he's not injured and he can stay on the field, he's tremendous. He was the Jets' leading receiver last year, again, with a pretty dour offense that they had. So Crowder, if they could end up getting maybe a day 2 pick for him, I think they'd be intrigued. By the same token, I also think Crowder could be a part of the building block for the rebuild. If it's not broke, don't fix it. I don't know if he'd want to move Crowder at this point.